Hello. Hello. Guess we can go and get started now. Just got finalized setting up here. We're going to be going with 3 of the casual decks today. Sundays are sort of the casual day for playing these beginner decks against each other, double checking that they're still pretty good, and just giving a space for kind of learning how to play Magic and kind of seeing, what Magic can do and what each of the colors are and what they're good at and stuff like that, as well as, just general stuff about Magic. So today we have 2 blue decks. We're actually picking up the last decks that I haven't played yet, so I've played all of the other beginner decks already. So that would be angels, demons, soldiers, elves, goblins, dragons, and zombies. So what we have left are both of the blue decks, coincidentally. I seem to have left them for last. And then, so those are Sphinxes and Thopters, as far as tribal decks go. And then the last one is the big tribe for green. So elves are its small tribe, and it's the big tribe that I picked out to build around for these beginner decks is Hydras, because there's now enough of them to make a somewhat decent deck. I mean, we'll get into it when we get around. We'll talk about the Sphinx deck first. The Sphinx deck it uses Unesh Criosphinx Sovereign, which is a 6-cost 4/4 flyer. So that's pretty good, and that's pretty much what you're going to see with most of these Sphinxes. It's that they're fairly high cost, and they're generally about 4/4, and they have flying. This Unesh will reduce the cost for Sphinx spells we play by 2, which is going to be really, really handy later on as we start actually getting into playing them. And then when it or another enters the battlefield, I get to look at the top 4. An opponent separates those 4 cards into 2 piles, and then I choose which pile goes into my hand and the other into my graveyard. So basically, every Sphinx spell has the capability of basically giving me an additional Sphinx to be able to play with. So it'll sort of, the goal with this deck is that, or I should say the focus, and we can kind of see that with this hand that I've chosen here, this beginning hand, is that there's a number of Sphinxes and then there's a number of these clone effects. So clones are just cards that come into play as a copy of another creature that's already on the battlefield. So what I'm going to do is that because this enters the battlefield I can make it enter as a Sphinx, then it actually activates the effect here. Now, I don't get the reduction effect with clone in terms of the clone is still this card when I play it, so the cost isn't reduced, but when it comes into play, I'll get the effect. And the reason that this is okay is because most of the clone effects are actually already pretty cheap. Specifically, they're set to about 4 mana when they're designed. So it's not going to take a lot to get them out, and it's going to be more about getting something like Artemis out that's in my hand. And the way that we're going to do that is using Cloud Key. We're going to reduce the cost of creatures is what we're going to aim for. And then, unfortunately, we can't do much. We're going to have to hope to draw more cards, and that's kind of the problem with the big decks, the big tribes, is that they really need to keep drawing mana. And so hopefully we'll either draw into cards that draw us more cards, or we'll draw into land itself, and then we'll try to get our way up to 5 mana ultimately, hoping that our Cloud Key doesn't get destroyed. And then most of our sources of removal, which is the other reason I grabbed this, is that most of the removal in blue, I didn't want to go too crazy with wiping the whole field, but there's a number of these return 2 target creatures to their owner's hand, stuff like this. And the reason I chose that is because it's not too offensive. It lets people be able to still play their cards without completely shutting them down, which is a big problem with blue and with mono blue, is that a lot of its ultimate goals ends up is to try to prevent anybody else from being able to play the game. And so I want people to be able to play the game with these beginner decks. I don't want them to completely be shut out. But the dual purpose with it is that if I need to draw more cards, I can always return a Sphinx back to my hand and then recast it, because I can target it with my own removal spell. So that's the sort of the trick to it that I hope that when people play this deck, they kind of pick up on, or at least it gives me an opportunity to point out that they can do stuff, that the person playing it, the beginner, has the opportunity, or I've built in opportunities to be able to show them different lines of play that they might not have generally realized. So let's go and get this deck started. Yes, we drew our land. We need one more land, and then we'll actually be golden, because on turn 3 we'll play Clap Key, and then turn 5 we'll be able to play Unesh, and that will allow us to start doing stuff like playing the next Sphinx and drawing into more Sphinxes and stuff like that. So our kind of power card in this deck, so each of the decks kind of have their own power strategy to play with. In this particular deck, we're kind of hoping to find an enchantment called Omniscience, which allows us to play every card in our deck that's in our hand. Like any card that's in our hand, we can play it without paying any mana, which means that we can essentially very quickly flood the field with Sphinxes and fly over people and defeat them in sort of an alpha strike. So that's what ultimately that's our win condition, is that we're just going to keep playing Sphinxes, and because they have flying and they're pretty stout already, they'll be able to just kind of power through given the chance. So that's what we're going to aim for and go from there. Now, our second deck that we are playing is Thopters, and I had a lot of trouble building the small tribe for blue, just because I really wanted it to be merfolk, but unfortunately merfolk just can't. Well, they can't. The problem is that merfolk have kind of two different strategies in mono blue, and that's either combo or milling. And milling in general is, it's fun. It's fun to play, but milling kind of devolves down into, if you don't do combo mill, then you're going to lose. You're not going to be able to do it quick enough. So you're still kind of just a combo deck. Now, you can play some merfolk control. That it is possible, but I found that it's not very good, and also it's not generally very fun for beginners. So to play with or to play against. So I had to find another tribe that's mono blue that uses a bunch of small creatures, and ultimately I settled on Thopters. Now it's kind of like Thopters and Mirror, sort of. So it's just kind of machine stuff, but being able to like kind of really dig into artifacts, there's not another deck that really does that. So this gave me the opportunity to kind of explore what artifacts do without, like I could tailor it so that it's not too broken. And we actually have one of the broken cards in our hand, but so basically the goal of this deck is the commander, whenever you cast an artifact spell, it creates a 1/1 flying Thopter. So we're basically just going to try to get him out as soon as we can, and then play as many artifacts as we can. We'll get a bunch of little flyers that can do different things. And then we have a lot of these artifacts, like both of these artifacts actually create more of those Thopters. So we're just going to try to keep doing that. Now, the broken card that I talked about is actually Metal Worker, and that's because its ability allows you to tap it and reveal any number of artifacts in your hand, and then once you do, you get 2 colorless mana for each artifact you revealed. So you can get a ton of mana really, really quickly with it. So we're going to see if that's... I'm still kind of playing around with it. I don't think that it's broken too much in this deck, but we're kind of going to wait and see how it turns out. We're actually, with the hand that we took right now for our starting hand, we're going to go fairly quickly. Most likely we'll just play 2 lands, get Silvermere out, and then play Sai. And once we get to that point, we'll have another number of options like Manifold Key, the Retrofit Foundry, and Metal Worker to try to play immediately and see what we do with that. Whirler Maker will be sort of the last card that we play out of what we have right now. But in any case, let's see what our first draw is. And Crystal Shard. So that's actually going to be really good for us because we'll be able to bounce creatures to our hand to recast them and get more Thopters, or we'll be able to try to shut out a problematic creature that somebody else has. So let's go ahead and get started with playing an island, and then we will pass the turn. So the last one that we have is actually Hydras. And Hydras are an interesting beast because a lot of them are good on their own, but they don't have a lot of synergy to them. And it took a really long time for there to be any kind of symmetry whatsoever. And so that's what we're going to keep trying to explore and keep fine-tuning this. And the way that I'm going to mix the Hydras together is actually with enchantments. We're going to go... we don't have as many Hydras in the deck as I would really like, but at the same time, the more Hydras you put in, the weaker it gets, and we can't let it get too weak, or else it won't be able to compete with these other decks. So we have to be careful about that. Plus, the one card that we have that actually like kind of combines Hydras in any sort of meaningful way is our commander, Gargos, Vicious Watcher. He's a 8/7 Vigilant card for 6 mana. And he makes it so that your Hydra spells cost 4 less to cast. So he's kind of like the Sphinx, except even stronger. So really, we're going to want to get him out as quickly as we can to be able to play Hydras for really, really cheap. That's what we really want. But the other part about it is that his second ability is that whenever a creature you control becomes the target of a spell, Gargos Vicious Watcher fights up to one target creature you don't control. So the idea here is that we have enchantments and some spells like Mortal's Resolve here. So our idea here is that we will come up. We'll take a while to be able to play Gargos out, and then once we can, basically every spell after that will probably be something that targets Gargos to kill something else and try to clear the board and allow us to be able to recover and sort of maintain control in the late game. Specifically with this Mortal's Resolve, it makes it so that target creature gets +1/+1 and gains indestructible until end of turn. So what we'll do is we'll be able to target Gargos. He'll fight something and kill it. Mortal's Resolve will make it indestructible. So then we will target it again with a different spell, and now because it's indestructible, it won't die. So it'll be hard for opponents to, we'll be able to clear the board is what I mean. We'll be able to target multiple things without Gargos dying, and we'll be able to keep him out as long as possible. Now that being said, I did mention that we were kind of on a slow start, which is unfortunate. We're going to see how we go with this. I've been trying to get enough ramp spells in this deck, and I can't. Either I get too many of them and don't draw anything else, or I get too few of them and nothing happens. So we're going to see how this goes with this hand. We have 3 land, which really isn't enough, especially since we don't have a ramp spell, but we'll see if we can manage to get a ramp spell, because we have all of these really great cards. Like I said, the 2 instances. I kept this hand mainly for Vigor, because Vigor, while it's not a Hydra, it's going to play really well into what Hydras do, and so essentially the way that a lot of the original Hydras in the game worked was that when they took damage, especially like this Hungering Hydra right here. So whenever Hungering Hydra has dealt damage, put that many +1/+1 counters on it. So essentially the idea is that, yeah, you cut off its heads, but it regrew all of those heads, right? That's kind of the mythos for Grecian Hydras. So Vigor essentially does literally the exact same thing. It's if damage would be dealt to another creature you control, prevent that damage, and then put a +1/+1 counter on that creature for each 1 damage prevented this way. So he's going to, basically turn all of our Hydras into even bigger Hydras if they take any damage. So really, we're 3 mana away from where we really want to be for both Gargos and Vigor. But once we get there, once we get to 6 mana, we'll be trucking really hard. So let's see what our first draw is for the turn. Overgrowth, perfect. That is almost all the mana that we need. So we're gonna be doing really well actually, because we'll be able to play this Overgrowth on turn 3. And that will mean that we just need 1 more mana to be able to play all the cards in our hand. So I'm actually happy to see that ramp spell. Let's go ahead and go back to Sphinxes since we finished a round of turns. Pretty much looking at this board, we can see what everybody's doing, but nobody's fallen behind quite yet. Nobody's gotten really far ahead. So pretty much, I think most of the turns, at least these first few turns, we're just going to be kind of playing and going and not doing any type of deep analysis on it. Now, we did get another island here, which actually means that, like I said, we just needed 1 more to be able to get us to the 6 mana we need for Unesh. So we're doing really good here. Go and play that, and there's nothing else we can do until the next turn for Cloud Key. So I'm going to go ahead and pass to Thopters. Thopters has a little bit different of a turn because they have Silver Mirror, which allows it to get an extra mana. So let's go ahead and draw a card. Perfect. That's what we wanted to see. 1 more land. We don't need, so these small tribes, they don't really need too much land. In fact, we don't want to draw too many land. We want to draw all of the other cards in the deck. So thankfully, we have the mana we want here to be able to start getting Sai out, but then we really don't want to draw any more land, at least for a few more turns anyway, just because we have everything in our hand that we really need. We'll play Sai next turn, and then we'll just play a bunch of artifacts all at once. So let's go ahead and pass the turn to, hey Mookie, how's it going? I just see you in chat there. Yeah, it's we keep missing each other. Oh, okay. What are you cooking? That should be fun. I don't know what we're probably just gonna order out for who knows how long. I don't know. Probably not too long. We actually are going to probably cook later this week, but I guess we'll see. Primal Bellow, so that is not what we wanted to see. We need 1 more land, but that's okay. We still have a few turns to try to get there with it. This is another targeting spell for Gargos to really make him really big and hopefully not take over the game completely, but it's really dependent upon what other people have in their hand to kind of stop me, so we'll see. Aw, we miss you too, Mookie. We're not doing great, but it's kind of the thing. We've been missing you. I could like see when your streams came up, but we couldn't really join them. Just there wasn't really enough internet to do that kind of stuff. So we've been stuck seeing the notifications and then not being able to do anything. There's not much help to really do, unfortunately. It's kind of what it is. You know, it's like we've done this so many times now that it's like we kind of already know what to do, and we kind of just sort of show up and keep trying to do daily things as much as we can, and then that's it, sort of thing, unfortunately. Thank you. I appreciate that, Mookie. Yeah, just weathering the storm. That's why I'm playing today. It's just something different, because I've just been playing video. I'm basically just been playing video games every day and doing nothing else because I can't really focus on anything else. But playing Magic at least gets my mind off of other things. So let's go ahead and see what our next draw is. A counter spell, which is good. I think, let's see. So I'm not really worried. This is a good point here. So I can play an island, and I have two choices. I can either save my mana for counterspell and try to stop something that somebody else is doing, or I can go and play Cloud Key here and set myself up for a good turn next turn, or the turn after probably. But I think that we're not too worried. We know that they're going to play Psy, but they're going to play Psy anyway. There's not much we can do about that, so it's really whatever the green deck is going to do. And I don't think the green deck has much. Like, I could kill a ramp spell for it, but it's much more reasonable to take out Gargos when it comes out. So what we'll do is we'll keep this in our hand and hold it for Gargos or something else, and instead this turn we will pay 3 mana to play Cloud Key. So when Cloud Key comes into play, choose artifact, creature, enchantment, instant, or sorcery, and spells of that type cost 1 less. So we're going to choose creatures just because creatures are what this deck is all about. So that will, like I said, help us get Unesh, our commander, out, and some of our other creatures when we draw them. So thank you, Mookie. Oh, yeah, it's a huge Lazy Susan. I guess I can kind of turn. You can see sort of the pattern here on the table. If I spin it real slowly, you can see. So I did all of this pattern right here, all of this work. Essentially, I just bought a table, like a circular table pre-cut like this from like a Lowe's, and then I drew on the pattern. Painted it and then stained the table and kind of sealed it, so it's a nice little table. And the purpose was I built it knowing that at some point I wanted to try to do something like this, try to stream Magic with real cards. But the other part about it was that we had some of our family members are getting into kind of their older years, and they have a hard time. They want to play board games, but they can't reach across the table as easily, and they kind of really need something that's like really close to them and such. So the idea was that if we had any of them over, then we could put the board game on top of the table, and then they wouldn't need, like if it was like Monopoly, then they wouldn't need to have somebody else do it for them, or they wouldn't have to reach across the table. They could just turn the table until their part of the board that they needed to interact with got closer to them, and then it would be right there, right next to them. So yeah, it was, basically just a big Lazy Susan. I don't know where I came up with the idea. It kind of popped into my head as something to try to do and see if it would work. So yeah, I made this. I have a friend that said that he wanted one, so at some point I'm gonna try to finish making one for him. But project for another day. So let's see. Let me go ahead and keep turning to our next player. So Psy, Master Thopterist. So let's see what we draw for the turn. Actually, that's really good. We did want to see this Thopter Squadron. We will play the last land in our hand, and then we will pay 3 and play Psy, Master Thopterist. Now, at this point, we could consider playing one of our 1-cost artifacts in our hand, but I think start selling them. Yeah, it's not that I couldn't. I don't know. I never think about things in terms of selling them. I think about things in terms of just doing them, and because I wanted to. So somebody else mentioned that, but it was like part of the thing is that trying to ship them, I think, is the problem, because they're, like trying to ship something, it's not really that heavy, but when it comes to mailing something, everything becomes heavy. Everything bigger than a regular envelope anyway. So I'm just not sure how I would get it out in a cost-effective manner, because it would end up being so expensive that probably nobody would buy one. And the other problem is that if I do start doing this, like more of them, then I would want to start making the table myself, because unfortunately, while I've gotten lucky a couple of times with Lowe's doesn't have these very often. Like they don't keep a big stock of these circular tables, and a lot of them that I've seen, you know, like the one that I'm going to make, or that I need to finish making for my friend, that one I went through like 2 different lows and to try to find one, and the lows that actually had one, they had like 3, and all 3 of them were kind of crappy. So I had to pick the least crappy one out of all of them. So if I want to like have good table quality, like the actual wood being good, then I'm gonna have to start making it myself, and that's just one step further than I really have the ability to do at this point. Like I just don't have the tools that I need to make my own table. So it's gonna be some time before I am able to really consider something like that. Let's see. So we have Gargos. We need a land is really what we needed right there, but that's okay. We'll be able to... We can always use this to destroy a problematic artifact that somebody else has, so we'll keep that in hand. And this turn we will play this land, Bonder's Enclave, and pay 3 and enchant land with this card Overgrowth. So whenever enchanted land is tapped for mana, that its controller adds an additional 2 green. So that'll be really good for us in the next turn. Hopefully in the next turn, because hopefully next turn we'll be able to draw a land. If not, we'll have to reevaluate what we're going to do and go from there. So it is back to Sphinxes, and the Sphinxes are going to probably not play any cards this turn. They're probably just going to bide their time because they have 2 removal spells in hand. They'll be able to play one or the other of them, which is good. And hopefully that means that, let's see, Sky Diamond. Ooh, interesting. Actually, so that's what we'll do here. So we're actually just going to, because we drew a ramp spell, another one, we're going to pay 2 mana to put Sky Diamond in play tapped. So it's an artifact that taps to add an additional blue mana to our mana pool, which means that this turn, so over the turn cycle, we'll be able to have our counter spell ready to stop somebody from doing something. And then we also still got to ramp as well. So that's going to be good for us getting out these Sphinxes that cost so much darn mana. But thankfully we're actually in a really good position. It's just really dependent upon what the other artifact deck does. What the artifact deck does in its next turn. Hopefully not go too crazy, because we don't have the removal that we need for both Gargos and what this artifact deck does. So if we turn to the artifacts, and actually the artifacts do have something crazy to do. So they're going to steal Overseer. Ooh, that's going to be really, really good. So what we're going to do is we're going to pay 3 mana and try to cast Metalworker. So, knowing what Metalworker is, I think that we can't allow that, because Metalworker just goes bananas if we allow it even a single turn. Like, literally one single turn of being on the board is 1 turn too many. And even though Gargos is 1 land shy of coming out, we've got to do something about Metalworker. So we're going to spin back around here and play Counterspell. So Counterspell is going to get rid of Metalworker and stop it from even appearing on the board. It's just kind of a removal spell for... So the way that Counterspell works, or Counter Target Spell works, is that instead of destroying something that's already out, it destroys something before it comes out. So one player tries to cast a spell, and then you get rid of it, essentially. So we're going to get rid of Metalworker, which means that we can decide on our next play here. And I think that our next play is just to go ahead and tap Silvermere for 1 blue mana, which we will use to cast Manifold Key. So Manifold Key has pay a colorless tap, then untap another target artifact, or and has pay 3 colorless and tap it, and target creature can't be blocked this turn. So we're not going to. You believe in the blue cards? Yeah. Blue is generally considered the best color of Magic. They just give it too many good cards. So, we'll see what happens here. I'm guessing one of these blue decks are going to win, but you never know. Maybe the green deck will come around. Green deck is the second best color, so at least when it comes to this stuff. So let's go and get our Thopter out. So what happens is that whenever we try to play an artifact spell, we actually get a free Thopter due to Sidemaster Thopterist. So that's his whole goal, is that we have a handful of these artifacts, and each time we play one, we'll get another free Thopter. So the more we're just going to try to do as many Thopters as we can, and then, like I said, since we don't have Metalworker anymore, we're going to work on getting Steel Overseer out next turn. And Steel Overseer gives a permanent +1/+1 to all artifact creatures we control. So that's going to be probably the winning move if it doesn't get gotten rid of by somebody else. So we'll see. That's all that we can do this turn, so we're going to go ahead and pass. We could attack with Scythe Master Thopterist, because there's no blockers, but it's only 1 damage, and we're not really too, like there's not much of a point politically to do that. That's kind of where it comes down to, is that if we really thought that either this green deck or the other blue deck were particularly ahead, then we might go ahead and try to get in chip damage while we could. But there's not, we don't, when you're a player sitting down on a table and it's just 1 damage, you don't necessarily want to upset anybody too early by doing that, because like some people can be really sensitive about getting attacked when they feel like they don't deserve it. And so it's better politically to not attack somebody at that point than it is to actually attack somebody, because we're not desperate for damage, and the 1 damage ultimately probably won't matter. So you say that, and of course later on I'm going to find out that that 1 damage did matter, but right now we're not too worried about it. So let's just go ahead and untap and draw a card, and oh yeah, we're in business, baby. With this forest, now we have 1, 2, 3. This forest taps for 1, and then we add an additional 2. So we have 6 mana to cast Gargos, Vicious Watcher. So now everybody's in trouble. Because Gargos is going to absolutely wreck some people, I think. The other decks have 1 turn to figure out what they're going to do, because if they don't do something about Gargos, it's game over, because essentially there really isn't another card in any of these beginner decks that actually can stand up to Gargos. Pretty much all of them get eaten by Gargos. So we're gonna see what happens here. I'm happy that it happened, but then again, we're going to have to see if we can keep doing it, because I don't know what's going to happen. So we drew Arbiter of the Ideal. Flying, when Arbiter of the Ideal becomes untapped, reveal the top card of your library. If it's an artifact, creature, or land card, you may put it onto the battlefield with a manifestation counter on it. That permanent is an enchantment in addition to its other types. Okay, so you know what? I think I know what we're going to do. We're going to go and play our land here. Then we're going to be a little tricksy. So I said that the clones were really meant to come into play as a copy of a Sphinx to take advantage of Unesh's, our commander's, ability here. But the other thing is that clones can come into play as a copy of anything. So we're actually going to make our own Gargos. So it's going to come. Our clone here is now Gargos. Let me go get something so that we can make sure to remember what it is. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. Yeah, so we have these, like, blank dry erase cards to use, so we're going to... Hey, Crow. How are you doing? Coming to watch some magic? Let's see, so Clone is coming into play as Gargos. So let's see, 8-7 here. You wish you could find some people that are on Discord that play Magic on there. Yeah, I played Magic through Discord, and I played through Spell Table, and I played through a bunch of different things over the course of the last couple of years, and I did play with like 2 or 3 other groups, and it was pretty fun. But most of them have gone back to like in-person play, so you know, like, and my problem is that the closest stores that run anything at all Magic related are actually a pretty far drive from here, so I can't really go effectively and play. So I decided at some point that I was going to try to do this and just play, you know, like 3 or 4 decks against each other at the same time. And it works out. I mean, it's not great, but it works out. It's still get to have fun and I also get to, you know, like, I'm much more of a casual player. So, you know, like, I purposefully don't keep competitive decks, not because I couldn't build them and not because I couldn't play them. I just don't have as much fun with competitive as I do with casual. And so it's also just harder to go to a random store and find other casual players. So this way I get to play all of the casual decks I want whenever I want. Let's see. We need some like goofy head here to represent Hydras, right? So some spikes, big eyeballs, because Gargos is a big Hydra. There we go. That's good. I know that it has a couple other abilities, but for now we'll just do it like that. Yeah, so the idea here is that with my own 8-7, if the real Gargos tries to kill me, then hopefully I'll be able to kill it back before that happens. Now, that may still be there may be a fatal flaw in my plan, but at the very least I have a backup with just returning Gargos back to its owner's hand and hopefully delaying it a single turn, but I guess we'll see. Oh, yeah. It's hard. It's really hard to get people to play consistently. Yeah. Something ready for... What do you have to play? What deck did you build? See, I was playing originally, one of the groups I was playing with was MTG Nexus. So that forum, that MTG Nexus forum is they do a Thursday night, and I think they're going to try to do every Saturday night as well. But I just happened to know the person who like started MTG Nexus, so that's how he like invited me one day to see if I wanted to play online or not. So that's the only way that I got in. I don't know if I would have gotten in otherwise, because I just don't go to that forum often enough. So what 3 do you have? Let's go and untap for Psy Master Thopterist. Now, we're really concerned as well because we don't really have anything to take down Gargos, and I don't know that I really want to play too many of my artifacts when I don't know what that Gargos is going to do. Especially Steel Overseer, it's absolutely going to get eaten. So I think what we do is we play this Mox Opal. It gives us another mana to play with. Then ouch. What do we do here? I think that we just hold on. So what we can do is at the moment... Well, actually, I guess I can go ahead. No, because I need a blocker, really. Shoot. Rakdos, Lord of Rides, nice. Karthus Tyrant to Jund was actually one of my first commander decks. It was one that I kept around for a long time, but I ended up taking it apart just because not so much I got bored of it, I just wanted to try to do different things, and I had a bunch of the cards that I needed for doing those different things. So I ended up taking it apart, and I've always kind of wanted to put it back together, but my one Karthus card is actually in a 5-color dragon deck now. So I don't know, maybe one day. Rakdos Lord of Riots is I actually have one of my dragon decks is Rakdos Lord of Riots. he's my red-black dragon deck. So and yeah, Rurik Thar. I love Rurik Thar. I love his ability to force people to like completely change what they're going to do, because he just bends all of the game around himself. That you just play a completely different game when he's out. So it's fun to like. What I like to do with it is I like to bait people into trying to kill Rurik, and then using cards to give him hexproof or give him indestructible or something to stop him from dying. And just like, yeah, I took 6 damage, but like now they're going to have to take even more damage to try to get rid of him. So it's fun to play that game and to like regain that health later, so that especially in red green, it's just, I don't know, it's fun. I like it. Let's see. So I was going to attack. I think we're going to hold back because I don't want to play Steel Overseer yet. We need one more mana if Silvermere gets killed to be able to replay Sai. So what we're doing is we're gonna wait out to see what Gargos is going to do, since we can't get rid of it. And if it kills one of our creatures, we'll basically immediately sacrifice 2 artifacts to be able to draw a card. Because that's our only way out of this mess right now, is to try to draw more cards. And without more cards, I don't know what we're going to do, because we can't play anything fast enough that Gargos won't just eat up really quickly, especially with a full grip. So hopefully what we'll be able to do is we'll just hold out, and hopefully, especially with another Gargos at the table from the clone, the 2 of them will feel like big enough threats to go after each other and not us. So would you say, let's see. Yeah, there you go. Oh, thank you, Loppy. Yeah, 15-15 and swing. So Crow, would you say you're more of a red player than anything? So, because I see that like you're playing a lot of red, mostly just red and green stuff is what you like. Let's see. Just going to go to the next turn here and see what we can do with Gargos. So let me draw a card. Rancor. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, that's good. Rancor's good. We have 6 mana at our disposal. We have a few different things that we can do. We can immediately kill. See, I think what we consider doing is I think we want to get rid of the other Gargos as soon as we can. Those are your primary colors, so white and blue, Crow, aren't your colors too much. Honestly, it took me a long time to build a white-blue deck. So I don't know. You can see in my, I think in my profile on Twitch, you can see where I think I've listed all of the decks that I own. So I own like nearly 100 commander decks. So I have at least one of each color combination. And blue white was one of the color combinations that took me the most. That one, and colorless, actually. Colorless is really hard for me. I don't know. It's like my problem is that you're pretty much down to playing golems or Eldrazi, and I just, as much as I actually do like Eldrazi, I know how hard it is to get people to be okay playing against you if you have Eldrazi, and all of the Golem decks kind of look very similar to each other, so I never end up playing that either. So I have a kind of like really crappy colorless deck that I don't really like all that much that I'd really like to rebuild at some point. And then I have a sliver deck that's colorless, if you can believe that. It has a legendary slither as the commander, but then all of the cards in the deck are colorless. So, and it actually is a sliver, like it's meant to be a sliver tribal deck. So, okay, let's see. So I think we want to get rid of the Gargos. We don't want to see that stick around. So we're going to have to be a little tricksy with doing it. I think what we do initially is we go ahead and cast this Mortal's Resolve. So target creature gets +1/+1 and gains indestructible until end of turn. So indestructible just means that it's not going to, whatever the creature is won't die if it gets dealt enough damage to technically die this turn. Okay, Mookie, you keep cooking. You should, just pay attention to your cooking. We don't want to see any more fires or anything, right? Tell us if there's smoke. So what we're going to do is we're going to use Gargos. We're going to target it with Mortal's Resolve, and because we did that, then Gargos is going to fight another creature. So we're going to choose Psy, Master Thopterist, to try to fight, which means that in response, Psy is going to go ahead and it's going to tap Silvermere and Mox Amber and sacrifice, let's see, I think we want to sacrifice, do we want any of this to untap? I don't really want to get rid of Silvermere, but we're going to go ahead and do it right now. We'll get rid of Silvermere, and we will also get rid of Manifold Key to be able to draw a card from Psy's effect. Oh, Mirror works. That's good. So then, never burnt anything. Psy is going to go ahead and die. It's going to take 1 damage, or it's going to take 8 damage from Gargos, but then Gargos is going to deal 1 damage to Gargos, and then Gargos is going to deal 8 damage to Psy and kill it. Actually, 8 damage. So now we just have a Thopter. We're going to keep this Thopter out so we can block. But then let's go ahead and turn back over to Gargos, these Hydras. And so now Gargos is indestructible and 1 power tougher. So now we can safely kill the other Gargos by tapping 1. And we will cast... Let's see. Let's go ahead and do Primal Bellow. So target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each forest you control. So we actually control 3 forests. So Gargos is going to get another +3/+3, and it's going to fight the other Gargos that's over here, the fake Gargos. So right here, this guy. So he's going to die, unfortunately. And now there are almost no blockers on the field, and Gargos is really super big, scary big right now. He is a 13-14, no, 13-12 is what he is. But let's see if there's anything else that we can do. So we are cognizant that there are 2 blue mana over there. So the blue deck could return Gargos to our hand. So we probably want to take as much advantage of it as we can at this point. So what we're going to do is we're going to pay 3 mana here, or add 3 mana. So the forest adds a mana, but then the Overgrowth enchantment on the forest adds 2 additional mana. So we're going to cast this Hungering Hydra for X = 5. And we do that because we're going to use 2 of the mana from this to pay for the green and an X, a 1 on the X. But then Gargos makes it so that it costs 4 less. So our X is actually equal to 5 here. So Hungering Hydra is going to come into play with 5 +1/+1 counters on it, and that's how we'll mark it, is with this die. Now we have 1 mana left over from this because we tapped it for 3, and we're going to go ahead and put Rancor on this Gargos. So Rancor is +2/+0 and trample, but because we cast a spell that targets something, we're going to actually target the only remaining, well, really the only remaining creature we don't control, and that's going to be this Thopter. So the Thopter is actually going to die. And now we are free to do whatever we please, essentially. So we are going to go ahead and attack with Gargos at... Now, like I said, we have 2 different blue decks with untapped mana, which is always scary. We could see almost anything come out of these blue decks at this point. So if we were just analyzing what we have, we're probably more afraid of the Sphinx deck right now just because it has way more mana than the Psi Master Thopterist. So I think that evaluating this, we need to attack this turn. We need to just go ahead and do it. So I think I'm going to go ahead and decide to attack the Sphinx deck and see what happens. So declare attackers. Gargos is a, let's see, I said 13. Let's see, 9 plus 3. No, wait. No, let me make sure. Okay. So this gave 9. Then this was 11, 12, 13. Is that... No, wait. Is that really 9 damage? 9, 10, 11, 12. Jeez, I don't know why I keep miscounting. I was like, I know that I'm miscounting, but how am I miscounting? So 12. So 14 damage total is coming after the Sphinx deck, and knowing what the Sphinx deck has, it is not going to declare anything. It's just going to take all of the damage, and unfortunately that puts us really far down. And it means that the Gargos deck has 1 more attack and we're dead, which is not good at all. Let me go ahead and use these white dice to mark it. So we were at 40. We start at 40 with these commander decks. So now we're at 26, which is not good. But thankfully we have something to stall for a single turn, and maybe we can see about doing something else. I don't know. We'll see. So the Hydra deck is now finished. It doesn't have anything else it wants to do, so we're going to untap, draw a card, Transmogrifying Wand. Oh man, this is perfect. This is actually perfect. Oh man, okay, that's really good, because so Transmogrifying Wand, oh it costs 3 to play, so we're going to tap 3 mana. We're going to play Transmogrifying Wand. It enters the battlefield with 3 charge counters on it, so let's go ahead and put that on there to make sure we remember. And then it has tap, or pay a mana, then tap Transmogrifying Wand, and remove a charge counter from it. And when we do that, we get to destroy target creature, and then its controller creates a 2/4 white Ox creature token. So, and I can only activate this when it's my turn, essentially. Which is fine with me, because it means I'm killing Gargos this turn, and hopefully that keeps him maybe out of the game for a while, at least for a couple of turns. Because yeah, so Gargos is going to cost 2 extra to play, so we're actually okay with that, and that means that we can actually save Transmogrifying Wand to kill Gargos again if it tries to do the same thing. So, and the other part about it is that since Transmogrifying Wand isn't a spell, Gargos' ability to fight things whenever something gets targeted by a spell won't count. I could just kill Gargos without fear of it targeting something that I have. So Gargos is going to die. I get a 2/4 Ox. Let's see here. Let's make our little Ox card. I don't know how to draw an Ox. Let's make something like this. This is kind of sort of an Ox-ish type thing. Make some eyes, some not googly eyes and not too mean of an eye here. So let's do that. Two big nostrils. I think Oxus has some big nostrils here, so they're kind of like this, I think. And then maybe, like a couple of floppy ear type things. That's an ox, right? That kind of looks like an ox. Maybe something on this side. There we go. There's our ox. Oh man, I'm thinking about this and I want to add more detail or something to it. I don't know how long this ox will last, so that may be completely wasted effort. I don't know. Okay, and the other thing is that Rancor, whenever it would... So once a creature dies, enchantments that are on it normally just go straight to the graveyard because it's not enchanting anything anymore. Rancor is actually a little bit trickier because when it gets put into the graveyard from the battlefield, it actually returns back to its owner's hand. So the only way to really get rid of Rancor is to destroy whatever creature it's going to enchant before the actual card comes into play. So for now, we keep our Rancor card, which is really good to have around. It adds a decent chunk of power and allows us to deal damage directly. So I think the Sphinx deck doesn't have anything else that it can play at this point, because we had to tap out so much mana to be able to play that, which is fine. It just means that there are still more creatures on the battlefield over on the other side. So I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens. Let's see. So actually, at the end of the Sphinx's turn here, I think what's going to happen is we have a lot of good cards in our hand, but we need another mana to replay Sai. So we're going to go ahead and activate this Academy Ruin. So Academy Ruins it's a land, so it can tap for mana, but then it has a second ability here that's we can put an artifact card from our graveyard on top of our library. So we're going to go ahead and put Metalworker back on top of our library and replay it. So that was at the end of... You can do things like this. Since Academy Ruin doesn't have any sort of stipulation on when to activate it, it can be activated on an opponent's turn. So we're activating it now because it means that when we untap to take our turn, we actually... the card that we draw is the Metalworker that we want. So we get Metalworker back, and we're going to go ahead and play Metalworker because it does put us like under the target a little bit because it's Metalworker and it makes so much mana so quickly. But that being said, we're kind of okay with it because we really need a big turn to come back into the game. And what we're going to aim to do is use Metalworker to get Sai back out and then play several artifacts in a row. So that's what we're really hoping to be able to do. So let's go ahead and go back to the Hydras over here. The Hydras are going to untap, upkeep, draw. Oh, a forest. We're well on our way then. So this forest means that we are 1 mana away from recasting Gargos. So we have a few options here. We could destroy... We could actually just use Return to Nature to destroy Metalworker and keep them off of their turn if they want to. We can also use it to destroy Transmogrifying Wand, which I might do. We could also cast Vigor, which would be really good, but that Transmogrifying Wand kind of makes that option moot because we don't want to lose our Vigor. So I think what we do here is we're going to first go ahead and tap 2 mana and cast Return to Nature, destroying target artifact. So we're going to destroy the Transmogrifying Wand because that gets around our whole shtick with our commander. So we want to be able to have a turn where we can still do something with... We want to be able to play Gargos and do stuff with it the turn that it comes out, if possible. So we don't want that to be interrupted with the wand. So even though Metalworker presents a really good target, I think that since they're creature-based, we may be able to be okay if we can get Gargos out the next turn. And to try to guarantee that we do that, we're going to add one. We're going to tap this forest for a mana, and Overgrowth gives us 2 additional mana. And then we're going to use that 3 mana to activate Bonder's Enclave. So this land has pay 3, tap, and then draw a card, and activate it only if you control a creature with power 4 or greater. And so since we control this 5/5 Hungering Hydra, we can activate Bonder's Enclave, be able to draw a card. So what did we get? We got another forest. Perfect. So we can't play this forest this turn. We can play it next turn because we already played a land for this turn. But we can go ahead and tap our last bit of mana, this last forest that we have, to replay Rancor onto Hungering Hydra, which is going to make it even more powerful, and 2 more power plus it gets trample. So what we're going to do is we're going to attack with it at the Thopterist, the Thopter deck. So since we already did something against the Sphinx deck, we're going to spread the love a little bit by attacking the Thopter deck, especially because we haven't attacked them yet. So we need to go ahead and get their life total down if we can as well. So they're going to take the 5 damage here plus 2 from Rancor. So they're going to be at, it's going to use these black dice here. They are going to be at 33. There we go. 33 health. The Ox we're holding back just in case we need a blocker. There's not too much to block right now, but, you know, you never know. Something might come out with haste out of these blue decks, so we just got to be careful. Let us rotate back over to the... rotate back over to the Sphinx deck over here. And the Transmogrifying Wand got destroyed, unfortunately. So let us untap, draw a card. It is an island, not great, but that's okay. It probably just means what we do here is play a land, then we add 6 mana to our... Actually, I guess it's actually 5. We only need 5 mana here because our Cloud Key reduces the cost. So we are going to cast our commander, Unesh, Criosphinx Sovereign. We're doing that here because we're hoping that even if the Hydra deck did manage to draw another land, or does in the next turn, we'll still be able to do something like just be able to swing with Sphinxes. Plus, we also do want to draw more cards if at all possible. So we're going to... the point in drawing more cards is that if we draw more cards, then we draw into possibly the ability to get rid of Gargos more permanently. And since that's the biggest threat here at the table, we need to try to be prepared for it if we can. So we're going to cast our commander, Unesh, Criosphinx Sovereign. It's normally 6 cost, but Cloud Key reduces it, so we only have to pay 5 mana for it. It's a flying 4/4 with Sphinxes cost 2 less to cast. My Sphinxes, not everybody else's, but... And then whenever it or another Sphinx enters the battlefield under my control, I reveal the top 4 cards of my library. So let's see what we got here. Oh, several really good Sphinxes. And Quicksilver Gargantuan. So, and we're going, so we reveal the top 4, then we have an opponent choose to separate it into 2 piles. And then we get to choose one pile to go to our hand and the other pile to go to the graveyard. So we're going to choose somebody who's not Gargos because Gargos knows that we have it out for him. So we're going to choose our other opponent, the Thopterist, to separate these into 2 piles. Now, if I'm looking at this, I see that they have, you know, like if I'm playing the Thopter deck, I can tell that most of these Sphinxes they could play this turn, just because they cost so little. With the reduction, they basically have a 3 mana reduction. So 2, I guess they can't play all of these. So They're actually, okay, so they can't actually play any of them, but they can soon play one or more of them. So we have an 8/7 regular Sphinx. We have a Sphinx that draws cards whenever a creature with flying attacks. We have Quicksilver Gargantuan, which becomes a copy of another card, another creature, except it's a 7/7 instead of whatever that card actually normally is. And then Elgeth Crossroads Augur, which is a card that whenever you would scry cards, you draw instead. So this one is probably the weakest card that they have here because it doesn't look like they've done any scrying whatsoever up to this point. So this is going to go... It really, we're going to be separating these three cards into two different piles. And then this one is going to go into one of those two. So most likely, I think we're going to go 2 and 2. So it's really what two cards together are better than, or like what single card of these is better than the other two. And in this case, if I'm the Master Thopterist, I actually don't really want them to have Mind Reader Sphinx. And that's because I have Thopters that are all flying creatures. So every time I attack with a flying creature, the Sphinx deck gets to draw a card. And I don't know that I really want that. I don't want them to die because I want them to be able to take out the Gargos deck if they absolutely can. But I also don't want them to I don't want them getting so much advantage that there's nothing that I can do to stop them later. So I think that the separation that we do here is these two cards. So they can either choose a really big Sphinx to deal a lot of damage and the ability to copy a creature, or they get kind of a crappier Sphinx and a Sphinx that I don't really want them to have. Now, as the Sphinx deck, looking at this, let's see, 6 different converted mana costs. 7, 7, 7, 6. Interesting. I am thinking about what I want to do here. So the Goliath Sphinx is really tempting, as well as the Quicksilver Gargantuan, but I'm eyeing this Artemis All-Seeing as maybe my way out of this game. Because whenever Artemis All-Seeing deals damage to an opponent, you may reveal your hand. If cards with at least 6 different converted mana costs are revealed this way, that player loses the game. So we have a 4 cost here. We have a 6 cost. We need a 7 cost. This one is really going to draw us a lot of cards if we can get it out. So I think we allow these two to go into the graveyard, because at the very least, it means that I for sure have a 7 cost in my hand. I have another 6 cost in my hand. Now, I have two other 6 costs, so I only really have 3 of the 6 that I need. But hopefully, in short order, I'll be able to remedy that. Now, that being said, I don't have anything else that I can really play with this hand. So I'm going to have to pass with this and just hope that the Metalworker doesn't totally crush me. So let's see what the Metalworker can spit out. So let's untap, draw a card, an island. We're going to go ahead and play that. So Metalworker has the ability to, when you tap it, I can reveal any number of artifact cards in my hand and then add 2 colorless mana to my mana pool for each card revealed this way. So if I do this, if I tap it, I can reveal any number of artifact cards in my hand. I'm going to reveal my entire hand, which is 6. So I'm going to get 12 mana from that. 12 mana to keep track of that. Which means that, let's see, if I want to, I can tap a blue and use 5 of it, so that's down to 7. To recast this, actually, no, sorry, 4, so 8. Because so with commanders, each time you recast your commander, it costs 2 colorless more to cast. So in this case, it normally costs 3. Since it died, now it costs 5. So this was one of the 5. I needed 4 more. I had 12 mana, so now that's enough. So let's go ahead and use 5 of that mana to cast Mirrorworks. Whenever I cast an artifact spell, I get a Thopter. So Mirrorworks is a 5-cost artifact that whenever another target, a non-token artifact, enters the battlefield under my control, I can pay 2 colorless. And if I do, I get to put a token that's a copy of the artifact onto the battlefield. That is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to use 2 more of our floating mana to cast Steel Overseer. And because I cast an artifact, I get another Thopter. And then because an artifact, non-token artifact came into play, I'm going to use the last floating mana that I have and pay 1 more to make a copy of our buddy, the Steel Overseer. So let's go ahead and make a quick card here. Steel Over. Remington Steel. Tap. +1/+1. So Steel Overseer, what's so exciting about that one is that it can tap and put a +1/+1 counter on each artifact creature I control. So since I keep getting Thopters for free, Steel Overseer makes them 1 power stronger each time that I tap it. So now having 2 Steel Overseers is going to be really good for me. So let's see. Do I make a little bit of a thing here? I would like make a battle droid from Star Wars or something like that, but maybe I can make the head here. There. Now we have a Steel Overseer with some battle armor. We do have some free mana that we could do something with. So let's go ahead and just keep the gravy train going. We'll tap a Mox Amber for a blue mana to cast Retrofitter Foundry. And because we cast an artifact, we get another Thopter. Then I'm going to pay 2 colorless, or 2 mana for Mirrorworks to make a copy of the Retrofitter Foundry. And the Retrofitter Foundry is a thing that just makes more Thopters, essentially. Let's see. So, Retrofitter. And specifically, now that we have another Retrofitter, its final ability is tap, sacrifice a Thopter, create a 4/4 colorless construct artifact token, creature token. So because these aren't creatures, they're just regular artifacts, we can actually tap both of these Retrofitters, sacrifice 2 of the Thopters that we just created to make a 4/4, or 2 different 4/4 constructs. So I don't think we have a regular card for that. So, oh, we do. So I'm just going to put this construct here. And we're going to use a die to represent how many of them there are. So we know that there are 2 of them. So now we have 2 4/4s to go smash somebody's face in with sometime later. And that being said, that's about all that we can do with this turn. I mean, we've done a whole lot already, but hopefully this means that we'll be able to put some pressure onto both the Hydra deck and the Sphinx deck in the coming turns, especially with the Steel Overseers. So let's rotate over to the Hydras and see what what kind of trouble these Hydras can get into now. Because I think that we untap, draw a card. It is return to Earth, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. That's nice, but I'm thinking that we have a couple of different choices. We can choose to, well, let's see, that's an interesting question. We don't really like the ability to just power out a bunch of these 4/4 constructs. But we can ultimately take care of that with Vigor and Gargos if we need to. It's really the Steel Overseers that are going to become the big problem, and we need to get rid of them. So I think what we do is that we have enough mana. I think we go ahead and tap 2. We play Nature's Way. Target creature you control gains Vigilance and Trample until end of turn. It deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. So we're going to go ahead and do that to destroy the copy of Steel Overseer. So the copy of Steel Overseer is destroyed. Then we tap this for 3 mana. The forest comes for 1, and then we get 2 more from Overgrowth. 1 more mana, and we cast Return to Earth, and we destroy the original Steel Overseer, which will go into its owner's graveyard. And now, we're less... I think we're... Because of the combination between Retrofitter and Metalworker and Psy, that we're more concerned about the Thopters right now than we are about the Sphinxes. So I think what we do is we just go ahead and attack into the Thopters again. And this time we have Vigilance, thankfully. So Hungering Hydra is going to attack the Psy Master Thopterist. Now, because of the Trample, all of the damage that goes over is going to go through. We don't have anything strong enough to block it, to outright kill it with a single creature, unfortunately. And that's because we could double block if Hungering Hydra allowed that, but Hungering Hydra has an ability that prevents it from being blocked by more than one creature. So we're going to have to probably just take the 7 damage this turn and try to kill out Hydras before they kill us, I think. So we're going to take 7 damage here, and we're going to be down to 26 from the 33 that we were at. And we'll see what we can do. It's going to be tricky. It's going to be tricky to get around that, but especially because I had Vigilance this turn, we don't want to make it stronger, because that's what happens if we block and we don't kill the Hungering Hydra. The Hungering Hydra just gets stronger, so we don't want that at all. That was what Steel Overseer was going to help us overcome, was being able to do that. So we're just going to... I think the Hydras are done for the turn. They don't have anything. They only have 1 card in hand. They don't have the mana to play it or its commander, so they're just going to pass to the Sphinxes, and the Sphinxes are going to see what they can do. Hopefully something important. So let's see. Okay, Sphinxes. Do your magic, man. Everybody needs help against these awful Hydras. Sphinx of the final word. Ooh, nice. Not the different mana costs that we wanted to see, but it is still a thing. Okay, so I think we have a bunch of cards in our hand. We don't really want to use the Into the Void just yet. We want to use it to stop Gargos. So, especially because Artemis will just allow us to fly over and kill somebody, hopefully. So, let's see what we do. I think we... let's go ahead and... Let's see. What do we want to do? How much mana do we have? So, we have cost reduction. We still need... This is enough to cast a 3 cost. This is enough to cast a 6 cost and 7 cost. So what we're going to do is we'll cast the 7 cost commander now. So when we do that, we get to reveal the top 4 cards of our library and allow them to be separated into 2 different piles. So... Let's see. It looks like I would have chosen the Thopters again to see what they would separate. I pretty much know how this gets separated anyway. Essentially, when you have a decision like this, normally it's safe to, especially when it's such an even split here, you separate into two piles where there's land in each of them and then a non-land card as the other spot. Which is a fair way to play here. So now we have a choice of either getting Witness of Tomorrow's, which is another Sphinx, or we get Favorable Winds to increase the power. So since we're kind of on the path of trying to use Artemis to seal the game for us, I think we go ahead and, well, yeah, I think we go ahead and let these go to the graveyard because with Witness of Tomorrow's, we can combine it with another Sphinx that we have here, Elgeth Crossroads Augur, if we need to. But otherwise, it serves as another converted mana cost in our hand. Now, we haven't played a land this turn, so let's go ahead and play our land. Then we are going to cast another Sphinx. Let us cast... let me see. I think that it's just smart to go ahead and play the Artemis All-Seeing here. So we cast another Sphinx, which activates Unesh. Here's our separation. So here's another easy, fun separation. When you see something like this, if you're wondering how to split these into two groups, generally you give them either all land and then the other card. So either they decide that they want a bunch of land in their hand, or they get another Sphinx. So I think that how we do this, let's see. So I think we actually take the land. I know this is a little weird just because this card goes really well with the Elgeth Crossroads Augur we have. So we could certainly play those. Well, I guess that is tricky. I think we go ahead and take the Sphinx because we can still play the Sphinx and Elgeth Crossroads Augur next turn. So let's just see how this plays out. So we are set up to possibly kill somebody in the next turn. That's how they're going to see it. Both of these other decks, because they know that I have 6 cards in hand. It's possible that these are 6 different cards, especially because with Windrender Sphinx, which I guess we're not gonna pass the turn quite yet. We're going to go ahead and attack with Unesh Criosphinx Sovereign, which activates Windreader Sphinx's ability, which allows me to draw a card, which is okay, not the best, but that's okay. So that didn't set us apart, but we do have 7 cards in hand, so it's possible that literally next turn we could kill somebody, and they're going to be able to know that. So that puts us in a hot plate for 1 turn, but it means that it's possible we kill whoever tries to stop us, essentially. Next turn we kill them, unless they get rid of Artemis. So let's go ahead and pass. And we got 2 really good blockers. Not good enough for the stinky hungering Hydra, but that's okay. So let's untap. We got some manas. Untap, upkeep, draw a card. No, wait. Before we do that, before we draw this card, I know I looked at it, but I'm going to give a little bit of grace here because the thing that I think is smarter to do here is to activate Academy Runes and put Steel Overseer on top of our deck before we draw a card. That's the beauty of Academy Runes. It makes artifacts really, really strong. So let's go ahead and draw the Steel Overseer for the turn. Then we tap Metalworker for 8 mana because we have 4 artifacts in our hand. So we have 8 mana to work with. Let's go ahead and get a die so we don't forget that. 8. So we're going to use 2 of it to cast Steel Overseer, which gets us another Thopter because of Thopterist. And then we are going to use 2 of that mana to pay Mirrorworks, which gets us a copy of Steel Overseer again. Now, what else do we want to do? I think that we pay 3 mana to cast Crystal Shard, which is an artifact that has tap, or pay 3 and tap it, or pay 1 blue and tap it, and we can return a creature to its owner's hand unless its controller pays 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this to essentially save one of our creatures that tries to get targeted by something, specifically Steel Overseer. And not only that, but we can also, by doing it this way, we can also return Steel Overseer to our hand at the end of somebody's turn and replay it next turn. So we can start generating more and more Steel Overseers every turn. So we're going to use the last colorless mana that we have and pay a blue to activate Mirrorworks and get ourselves a copy of Crystal Shard. So, oh, and we got a Thopter from Crystal Shard. Crystal Shard. 3 tap or blue tap. So let's put that under here and get ourselves another Thopter. We're just filling up this whole board here, I think. So we can't tap Steel Overseer yet. We could attack with 4/4 constructs, but I think that that would be problematic because we couldn't kill anything. We can't overwhelm anybody with it. So I think actually what we do is we go ahead and wait a turn. We save the Thopters here so we can act as blockers for Artemis in case Artemis comes our way. And then we can, after I declare a Thopter as a blocker, I can then sacrifice it to the Retrofitter Foundry and make another 4/4 construct. So I think that's it for this turn. We just move on to Hydras and see what the Hydras can do, which I think is scary enough to think about. Let's untap our mana, draw a card. It's a forest, which is really not what we want to see at this point. So we play our forest, and I think this is the turn that we go ahead and cast our Vigor, because Vigor is going to start making everything insane. Vigor has an ability that whenever a creature I control is dealt damage, I prevent that damage, and then put that many +1/+1 counters on the creature instead. So say if a 4/4 creature blocked Hungering Hydra, then that 4/4 would deal 0 damage, and I would get 4 +1/+1 counters instead. So Hungering Hydra would become an 11/9 instead of a 7/5. So let's go ahead and, at this point, both the Thopters and the Sphinxes are a big deal. We can't do anything about the Sphinxes at this point, so we just have to attack them and try to bring down... They're equal in life totals. They both could possibly kill me. I think I have one... Since I have 40 life, I think I have an extra turn to do something against the Thopters because they're trying to deal combat damage, but the Sphinxes could kill me outright using Artemis, so I really want to try to kill them first. So I'm going to go ahead and attack for 7 damage at them. They only have 2 blockers. They're probably not going to block anything. Just because they don't want to make Hungry Hydra even stronger and possibly kill them next turn. So the Sphinxes are just going to take the damage and be down to 19 life, which is a very low amount, but it is what it is. So let's go ahead and rotate here and see if the Sphinxes might manage to off somebody this turn. So let's untap, upkeep, draw a card. We have 8 cards in hand. We have 1, 2, let's see, 3, 4, 5 different converted mana costs, because these are an extra 5 and an extra 2 extra 6s. So we need 1 more different converted mana cost to be able to kill somebody. So what we really want to be able to do is, let's see, we need to play a Sphinx first. We need to hold this in our hand because we probably will need this to bounce constructs so that we don't take enough damage to die next turn. So let's see. Let's go ahead and pay 2 to cast Guardian of Tazim. When Guardian of Tazim comes into play, it activates Unesh, Criosphinx Sovereign. So I look at the top 4 cards in my library. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this again is kind of a bad deal for anybody trying to choose, because they don't know what... They can guess that I have multiple high-cost cards in my hand, but they don't know if I have any low-cost cards. Especially they don't know if I have any lands. So they're kind of screwed on this combination, because no matter what way they separate this, they'll give me 2 different converted mana costs. They'll either give me 1, 3, 2, 0, 3, 0, 2, 2, and 3. And that's pretty much it. So, I mean, they could do something like this, where they give 3... No, wait, I guess they do. Never mind, sorry. They separate it like this. I was misreading Palladium Mirror. Palladium Mirror is actually a 3 cost, not a 2 cost. Sorry, I'm really skewed here on my camera. So they can... This means that either they take the 3s or they take the 0s. So I am going to, knowing that I have a land in my hand, I'm going to let the 2 islands go into the graveyard, and I'm going to take these 3. Which means I have a lot of cards in my hand. Let's see what we can do. So, yeah, pretty much what we want to do here is we're going to have to attack... We need to attack all out. We need to draw 3 cards and hope that we can be able to do something about killing off the Hydras, and then we'll try to do something about the Thopters, because we're kind of playing Kingmaker here, but I don't know that we really have a choice, because Artemis puts us so much into the hot seat, and we can't get through. They have 3 Thopters. We can't get through them all, unfortunately. So we're just going to have to attack. We're going to have 2 of these, this Sphinx and this Sphinx, attack into the Thopters, and then this Sphinx attack the Hydras. So, since I have 3 Sphinxes attacking, and the reason we can't attack with this one is because it came into play this turn. So, we attacked with 3 Sphinxes. Whenever a creature with flying attacks, we draw that many cards. So, we have 3 cards to draw. We got a 3 cost and a 4 cost. So, unfortunately, that means that we're not going to be able to kill anybody, because we have... No, wait, let's see. So we have 0 cost, we have 3 cost, we have 4 cost, let's see, 5 cost, 6 cost, 7 cost. So actually, yes, we do. We have 6 different converted mana costs in our hand, which means that the damage Artemis deals ultimately is moot, because the Hydras now lose the game at 40 life. And like I said, these 2 Hydras are going after the Thopters. Sorry, I'm getting a little dry here. Oh, that's better. A little better. You can't really tell, but it's a little better. So, when we talked about the Thopters, what they were going to do is that they are going to block the two Sphinxes that are coming their way. These two Sphinxes. But then, because of the way this works, now that they're declared as blockers, these two, the damage from those Sphinxes without trample are going to go nowhere. It doesn't matter anymore. As long as they're considered blocked from now on, their damage essentially just goes into whatever was here, even if they don't exist anymore. And that's what's going to happen. We're going to sacrifice both these Thopters to create two more constructs. Just like that. So, with those two Sphinxes blocked, we don't take it, the Thopter deck doesn't take any damage, weirdly enough. Yes, Toby, it is. It is Unesh, then Psy Master Thopterist, and then Gargos Vicious Watcher. Unfortunately, Gargos just died. Gargos is no more. The Thopter, it is now Thopters versus Artemis. Really, we have the Sphinx deck over here played Artemis All-Seeing. So if it deals combat damage, then it's going to try to essentially one-shot the opponent that it deals damage to and make them lose the game. And we have a ton of cards in our hand, so we're doing really nicely on that. That being said, we only have 19 life, so that's not all that great. Yeah, Gargos is really scary, honestly. I'm always concerned about Gargos. Because if he kind of goes off, which he sometimes does, then he just takes over the game. And he eats every creature that comes out, and so you can't play anything. And then he ends the game really quickly because he's freaking 8 damage each turn at the very least. And it's almost always more than 8 damage by the time you start going off. So, okay, so we have our board state over here. We haven't played a land for the turn, so we're going to go ahead and play a land. This is our second main. We need to keep cards in our hand. So let's see. We want to keep the land. We want to keep probably the counter spell. We're probably going to keep this Spark Double in our hand. We're going to keep the Witness of Tomorrows, and then these other two Sphinxes. So these are the 4 cards that we could play from our hand before we get rid of them, or before we have to get rid of them. So let's go ahead and pay 2 to cast our Warden of Evos Isle. So it costs only 2 because the Cloud's key is still counting things as reducing the cost for creatures. So now Warden of Evos Isle actually reduces the cost of flying creatures by 1. We're going to pay 2 for Palladium Mirror, so they have another blocker and mana if it manages to survive. Then we are going to play, let's see, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 cost reduction on Sphinxes. So let's go ahead and pay 2 more mana and cast Horizon Scholar. So when Horizon Scholar comes into play, I get to scry 2, and I also get to do Unesh, Criosphinx Sovereign's ability. So let's go and scry first. It's normally good to see what we can work with and maybe move one of these to the bottom if it's a bad card. So let's look here. Oh man, that's too bad. Oh, I wish I had known. Walk the Aeons was on top. Okay, well that's fine. So we'll put the land down at the bottom of the library, and we will keep the other cards on top. So, because the Sphinx came into play, we get to reveal the top 4 cards of our library. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, our single opponent that's left, Sai Master Thopterist, gets to separate these 4 cards into 2 piles. So really here, I mean, we know that they have the cards that they need to kill us, and they're going to keep those cards at all times if they can. So getting extra turns at this point is probably the thing that we don't want them to have. So I think that we try to force them, as the Thopter deck, I think we force them to take just the extra turn card and get rid of everything else. And that's probably what I'm going to go ahead and do, because the counterspell, I'm just not playing counterspells. I just need to just ram as many Sphinxes down the Thopterist throat as I possibly can. So the counterspell isn't doing as much good right now. Cost reduction wise, we have so much mana and cost reduction stuff that Kefnet's Monument doesn't matter anymore. And then we still have a bunch of Sphinxes in our hand, so I think it's okay to leave one Sphinx alone. So we do that and draw this into our hand. Now we have to discard for hand size at the end of our turn. So we're keeping the hand that allows us to kill with the Artemis All-Seeing. We keep the gain an extra turn card, and we get rid of the other 2 that we don't need. So that is our turn with 4 blockers up. Somehow we managed to get 4 blockers out of that. So we rotate over to here. Now the question that I think that I know the answer to already is, I think that we probably do Metalworker again, but we guarantee that we get an artifact on the top of our library. So during our upkeep, so we untap first, and we untap Metalworker over here. Actually, wait, do we... I had 1 mana untapped at the end of the turn. No, I don't want to get rid of Metal. I really need Metalworker this turn. Okay. Okay. This is how we do it. Yeah, let's not activate Academy Runes. I was thinking about activating Academy Runes and putting Manifold Key back on top of our library. Well, crap. Crap-ola. Drat. This is tricky. This is actually pretty tricky with these artifacts. There's a lot of different things that we can do, and that may be one of the problems with this being a beginner deck, is that there's maybe possibly too many different options. I mean, it's good to have options. It's good to allow people to have options, but at the same time, it's kind of like, yeah, but do we end up having too many options and we slow the game down too much? So the thing is that we could put Manifold Key back on top of our library to use it to tap and untap Metalworker and get us a bunch of mana. But that being said, we're only getting really 4 mana out of it. And I'm trying to think about whether or not how much we're really getting out of it, because we need the Thopters to block flyers at this point. We need to at least leave 1 up, but it's probably necessary to leave multiple up, just because we know that the blue deck can return creatures to our hand, and if we don't have enough Thopters out, then they'll be able to return enough of them to get Artemis through, and we lose automatically. So, harm. Let's think. Because the other thing that we can untap is Steel Overseer. We could use Manifold Key for that. as well. Let's think about doing that. We're just going to try to go in full-on Steel Overseer mode. Let's go, baby. So we're going to pay 3. We're going to put Manifold Key on top of our library at the beginning of our turn. We draw a card for the turn. We tap Metal Worker for 6 mana. 6 mana here. We use 1 of that mana, so down to 5, to cast Manifold Key, which gets us another Thopter. And then we do 2 mana to get another Manifold Key out. So let's draw ourselves a little Manifold Key. Manifold. Gosh, these ones are so useful. Man, now that I said this, I feel like I need to... Let's make it like a... The Kingdom Hearts key. Oh man, it's not long enough. Oh crap, I drew them on my finger. Sorry, give me a second. Kingdom Hearts key. Keyblade. There we go. Oh, it's hideous. Oh, that's okay though. So, let's see. Okay, we tap 2. To do Steel Overseer twice. Oh, that's so many +1/+1 counters. There's so many. So there's 2 +1/+1 counters here, 2 on these guys, 2 on Metal Worker, 2 on Steel Overseer, 2 on the other Steel Overseer. Let's go and make sure I don't forget. Okay, there we go. Now, I think that means that we activate... No, wait, we need that blue mana. So we activate Manifold Key twice. Untap. Or we tap them to untap Steel Overseer 2 more times, so we get 2 more counters on everything. So there's 4 here, there's 4 here. We actually may be okay. 4 here, 4 here, 4 here, 4 here. So we can actually, these Thopters are going to start dealing some hefty damage now. So we have 1 mana left over. Is there anything else that we could do? Because I think that what we do, I think that we go ahead and we pay a blue mana, tap Crystal Shard, we return the original Steel Overseer to our hand. Back to our hand. I know that's kind of weird. We use the last floating mana that we have plus Mox Amber to recast Steel Overseer and give us another Thopter blocker in case we need it. Because I'm afraid that we're going to see a like return 2 cards to their owner's hand kind of thing. And we're going to get screwed from Artemis. So I want 3 blockers. It's a pathetic blocker, but it's a blocker nonetheless. Now, what we have to attack with is 4 8/8 constructs. Oh god, that's good. That's really good. So let's go ahead and rotate over here and see what we can block with. Because basically what we need to do is we need to... Oh, that's bad. It's bad. We have Walk the Aeons. We need to take 2 turns in a row. We can't take 24 damage. That's it. That's the long and short of it. So we do have to block something, which we're kind of okay with blocking. I think we're okay blocking with the Warden of Eos Isle. We could technically block with another Mirror if we really needed to. But we only really need one. We just needed to come back to our turn is really all we need. Because once we do that, we have 5 attackers here. That's enough to kill off the tokens if we can keep Artemis All-Seeing from dying. That's our main issue. And unfortunately, I think that I did the stupid thing and got rid of the one that we needed. Shit. Damn it. I guess we just don't attack with Artemis this turn, but then they don't block. Yeah, that's so tricky. Crap. Okay. Okay, so I think we switch this around. We block with Palladium here. We block one of the constructs. We take 18... No, it's 4. I do need a block with 2. Crap. Okay, so we block with Warden of Eos Isle as well. So now we take 16 damage. We're down to 3 life. Ouch. But they are tapped out. They don't have any ability to do anything else at this point. But they will definitely kill us next turn. So we have to do something about that. Which means that we untap, upkeep, draw a card. Let's see what we get. It's... Oh, wait. Wait. If it unders untapped, instant or sorcery on top of your library. Oh, that's game. I think that's game. I think we got it. I think we finally got it. Yeah, Into the Void. Okay, so here's how it works. Mystic Sanctuary is an island, a special island, that when it comes into play, it enters tapped unless I control 3 other islands. So I do control 3 islands, so here we go. So it doesn't come into play tapped. Then, if it comes into play untapped, which it did, so we get to put a target instant or sorcery card from my graveyard on top of my library. So we are going to put Into the Void on top of our library. So now... let us... We need to do... Let's see. Yeah, we need to go ahead and... Actually, I guess we don't want to... Well, how much damage am I really dealing? 7... 15. Let's put some down to 11. Okay, so yeah, let's go ahead and do this. So, or do I wait for Enter the Void? I think I wait on that. I think I don't let them know that I'm going to do that. Okay, so sorry, I'm being a little fishy here and kind of taking things back because I'm trying to do it show the best way to play this, if I can. I'm not saying that I'm an expert whatsoever. I'm not even close to an expert on this game. Far from it. But let's see. So I don't attack with Artemis because I don't want them to kill it. They have 3 blockers. The question is whether they take the damage or not. Because I think that, let's see. Oh, I draw 4 cards from that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I drew 4 cards from that. They actually have, 2 of them are 5/5s. So I think that they just block 2 of the bigger Sphinxes that way. Yeah, I'm kind of wondering if I have actually won this or not. They take 7 damage, taking them down to 19 life. Because they don't block with the other Thopter. Let's see. So if I play Mystic Sanctuary, I get Into the Void back on top of my library. I have a bunch of cards that I could play. Let's see. I think at this point, I need to set aside 6 mana for Walk the Aeons. So that leaves me with 4 more mana left over. These are in my hand. I don't want to get mixed up here. I have 3 cost reduction. So I think that, let's see. 1, 2, 3, let's see. Ouch, I don't... Because I could play 2 Sphinxes. I could play both of these guys this turn, because they're reduced by 3 each. So they cost 2 each. How much damage is that? So if I 6 here... 6... 16, 19, that's not quite enough. But I can't deal more damage than that. So I think let's go ahead and just do that. We'll pay those. Well, we do get to draw cards, so we'll do it one at a time. So we'll do Sphinx of Lost Truths first. So we'll pay 2 mana for that. Let's see what the top 4 cards are. 1, 2, 3, 4. So our 4 cards are Into the Void, which is the one we want. They don't want me to have that. Counterlash, kind of useless. Sunken Hope, also equally useless. So I think that with the Thopter deck is going to separate this where I get... where I either get Into the Void or I get the Sphinx, because the Counterlash doesn't help me, and neither does the Sunken Hope. Actually, the Sunken Hope moves me backwards. So most likely I'm going to go ahead and take the Into the Void here, which means that I go ahead and play... Man, I wish that was 1 less. So I wish I had my fly, like one of my other cost reductors or something at this point now. Let's go and play Witness to Tomorrow just to get creatures out. Let's go and look at the top 4 again. So we have another... Yeah, this is easy. So we have 2 ramp and an island or Beacon of Tomorrows. Obviously, I'm going to... That's how you would separate it. You would say, okay, you either get extra turns or you get these. So now I'm going to win the game for sure. So what I do is I cast Walk the Aeons. I get an extra turn. I am not going to sacrifice 3 islands to buy back. So at the end of the turn, I have to discard some cards. I'm going to, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So let's get rid of 3 lands. Yeah, 7 cards. I untap for my next turn. I untap with these. I draw a card. It's Reflections of Litjara. Yeah, that's really good. We play an island. Let's see. So, how much is Beacon for Tomorrows? It is 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. 8 mana for that. They know that we're going to play it. We don't have enough to do Into the Void as well. So, I think we... Let's see. Yeah, I think it just means that we pay 3 here. We cast Spark Double as a copy of Wind Reader Sphinx. And then we do the top 4 again. 1, 2, 3, 4. So Master of Predicaments, Gravitational Shift, and 2 copy effects. So probably... we separate the cheap copy effect and Gravitational Shift, which will give them more flying advantage, and Master of Predicaments and Vesuvian Doppelganger. So I think that this is how I would separate it as the Thopterist, and now I need to figure out which pile I would take as the Sphinx. I think that just taking more creatures is better at this point. Well, yeah. Actually, let me go ahead and put that into my graveyard. Because Gravitational Shift will give me just a little bit of more power next turn. So, okay, so we have this. Spark Double can't block or attack this turn. We go ahead and attack with 5 creatures. They are... Well, I draw 10 cards now because I have 2 of Wind Reader Sphinxes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So they have to absolutely block with... They have to block Artemis because I almost certainly have 6 different mana costs in my hand now. They want to block as much damage as they can after that. So they probably block Unesh and one of the... and probably win... Well, I guess actually one of these other ones. So probably this one. So, okay, so they're going to kill my commander and Artemis because they have 5/5 Thopters. Flying Thopters, but they're going to block one more with the 1/1 Thopter that they have. So this Wind Reader Sphinx is dealing no damage, but they still take 6 and being down to 13, and they lose the Thopter that they have. Okay, now my second main, I tap 8 mana and cast Beacon of Tomorrows, which... I have target player takes an extra turn after this one. Shuffle Beacon of Tomorrows into its owner's library. So that was Beacon of Tomorrows. Let's see what we do. We take 1 extra turn. See if we can get there. We have 13 more damage we have to deal. So at the end of the turn, though, I have to discard a bunch of cards, presumably. So... these 2 come into play tapped, so we don't want them. We don't want this one. We don't want that one. We have 1 island in our hand for sure. Let's get rid of a counter spell. Let's get rid of... let's get rid of a second counter spell. Let's get rid of... Sphinx Magosi, Pilgrim's Eye, Sphinx's Final Word is too much, and we have 8 mana, or 8 cards in hand, and now we need to get rid of 1 more card. Let's go ahead and get rid of Elgeth, Crossroads Augur. We'll put all those into our graveyard, so now we're down to 7 cards in hand. We take our second turn, untap, draw a card, mirror image. That's okay. So we'll play an island. We now pay 4 mana to cast Into the Void to return both of those other Thopters to its owner's hand. And tokens, when they go to your hand, they just disappear completely. They don't represent real cards in your hand, so they just disappear permanently. So now we absolutely want to pay 5 to be able to cast Gravitational Shift to give creatures with flying +2/+0. Then probably... let's see. How much damage is that actually? So that's 5, 10, 15, 20. Okay, that's enough. So that means we win. That's 20 damage. Sphinxes finally take it just barely. Just barely. It was extremely close there, but they managed to pull it. I mean, they had other cards in their hand to play, but... man, that 3 life. I was at 3 life with the Sphinxes. Holy crap. So that's the power I kind of showed you right there. That's the power of drawing cards. If you draw way more cards than your opponent, you're just going that you have a much higher likelihood of winning because you have way more opportunities to play the cards that you need to get you there. It's so key to so many different things. That's why blue is such a strong color compared to other colors, is because of that drawing power. It's the best drawing power in the game outside of Necropotence, basically, or other black, completely broken cards. So, wow, that was nice. I'm glad. I think every deck got to play it, got to kind of do its own thing. That's kind of what I want to see with these decks. I want to see every deck get to do something. Every deck doesn't need to win. They just need to feel like they actually played the game. If a deck doesn't feel like it's playing the game at all, in its own form, whatever that form is, like even if it's stacks or something. I don't have a stacks deck. I'd like to try to see if I could someday build a stacks deck that's, that is okay for Commander, that's not just mean-spirited. But it's like even the decks that can be kind of atrocious or kind of bad at something, either end, where they're where they're really good or where they're really not. If you don't feel like you get to play your deck at all, it doesn't do anything, then that's the thing that I want to avoid the most, is because I want people to be able to play these decks and feel like they're getting to do something. Gargos got to do something. I mean, it kind of ended the game very abruptly, which isn't ideal, but there's only one of those Artemis cards in this whole deck. So it's not in 100 card or in 99, drawing 99 cards. We drew over half of our deck, but we still have plenty of cards here, probably about 30 cards left. So yeah, we may have drawn it sooner or later, but it was still like we didn't get it out before like turn 6 or 7 or something like that. And by that point, it's okay to start playing really good cards like that. So I'm okay with that. It's when you would play Artemis on like the first turn and win the game the next turn. That's when it's a problem. That's when that's what I want to avoid. Because, like I said, that's all about somebody else not getting to be able to play the cards in their deck and letting it do its own thing. So Thopters went crazy. The Hydras went almost they went crazy towards the beginning. So yeah, I think this worked out. I think I like what I see here. I like how this is going. So I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. It's been about a couple of hours, which is a good amount of time for a single game. I didn't want to do too much today. I just wanted to do enough to be distracted, basically. So I think I'm going to go ahead and start shuttering my doors for the day. I don't know whether or not I'm going to be able to play on Wednesday. I'm going to try to Wednesday or Thursday. It may be Thursday. I'll be sure. I spent so much time. We missed the last 2 weeks or something, unfortunately. So I'm going to try to hit Sundays for sure, but it may be a bit tricky. Hopefully I don't have anything. There's a thing that I have to do on Wednesday, and I'm hoping that it just is in the morning, but there's no telling with it. So hopefully it's just a morning thing and I'm done. But okay, well, thank you all for watching. I'm really glad to have some more people in here today and kind of get to see what I'm doing here. I know it's probably pretty confusing for the people who haven't played Magic at all and don't know anything about it, but hopefully with enough of these, if you keep coming, you'll kind of start getting a hang of it and seeing, kind of why I enjoy this, why I spend so much time on it. So, yep, there's the clock reminding me what time it is. Okay, you all have a good week, okay? Thank you all for coming.